we've got an extraordinary speaker today. Master Chief Wiiliams, I'm not going to roll down his whole bio because I could spend all day doing that. But I tell you what, when you look down the list, he's been ashore 2 times. He's now on his 3rd shore duty. He was a recruiter, he was on the NATO staff, and now he's at Surfland. Every other time, USS has been the name of his game. He's done an extraordinary job of keeping the word out here at the among folks. I tell you, the last few years have been pretty tough for the service force. Last few years have been pretty tough for people down on the deck plates. But hopefully, and I'm pretty confident because I've been hearing it, he's helped you understand why. And he's got a few things to share, and he's gonna open the floor for it. So, Master Chief Wiiliams, welcome to Hampton Roads Surface Navy Association, and more importantly, welcome to this fleet crowd.
Hey, thank you, thank you, thank you. Hey, listen, you guys hear me back there? Okay? Hey, whenever I get introduced like that and I have to step up, I kind of go into the dream mode and I start thinking that I'm an NBA player in the 7th game of the finals and I'm going out and the stadium's packed, you know, so I like to hear my name called like that. But then I wake up and I realize that it's hard for me to even jump and touch the net at this point. So I appreciate all of you guys coming here. To all of the distinguished folks here, and we have a lot here, to the command teams that are here and all of the CMCs and COs that are here. It is great to see all of you. What a great vision it is from up here, the perspective I have to see all of you out here. It is a great view from up here, and you ought to come up afterwards and take a look at what I'm talking about. And I also don't want to forget those folks who are out there. They aren't able to be here today because they're on the ship. They're serving standing watch. They're putting their lives in harm's way so that we can be here. They're doing the job that we all do. We are sailors. That's what we are. When it boils down to it, we are sailors. And so let's not ever forget about those great folks. Whenever I begin to speak about anything, as you guys know, I've been here for a little while. And the first thing I like to say, I like to open it up with saying it's a great day to be a surface warrior. That's right. That's right. It is a great day, and we're just not saying that. I didn't say it's a great day to be Master Chief Wiiliams. I didn't say it's a great day to be Captain Howard, which, if you're Captain Howard, it is a great day to be Captain Howard. But I said it's a great day to be a surface warrior. That encompasses all of us in some form or fashion. Those folks who are on those ships and those folks who support those ships. We're sailors. We're in the Navy. When the Navy was thought about, we made the Navy, and this great country said, hey, we want a Navy. Years and years ago, it was because of ships and those sailors that ride those ships. And as my boss says, today in the Navy, if you take away those ships and those sailors that ride those ships, you have something. And it's probably pretty powerful, but you can't call it a Navy. It is what we do, surface ships. It's a great day to be a surface warrior. And listen, I know there's folks from other communities in here, and that's okay. And as I say that, some folks say, that's kind of weird. It's a great day to be whatever community I'm in. And I totally understand that, and that's okay. But today, because this is a Surface Navy Association event, and because I'm the Force Master Chief from the Surface Force, it is a great day to be a surface warrior today. Hey, and listen, we have some special folks here today, and some of them have already gotten to their feet. If you're a Junior Sailor of the Year, Sailor of the Quarter, Sailor of the Year, or anything like that, would you please stand so we can recognize you again? Stand up. That's right. Stay up. Stay up. Hey, listen, we want you to know, as you stand there, we want you to know that this is important, what you do. This is important, the accomplishment you have just made. This means something to us. Sometimes when we get busy, we get so busy that we forget about those types of things. That's why it's so good that we can take the time in an event like this and tell you from our heart that it is important what you do and where you have gotten to. When I was a Junior Sailor of the Quarter many years ago, and by the way, I think that's high as I ever got, I was proud to do that, and I know you all are. But you need to know that we are proud of you. And we think it's important. That's why I wanted you to get up. Now I'm going to ask you to sit down because the clock's ticking, man. The clock's ticking. It is good to see all of you. It is good that we can take some time in an event like this to come together for an hour and a half, 2 hours, to talk about some things, to mingle with some folks, to network, to talk about problems, because you'll find out that some of the solutions lay in this room. So this is a good thing that we're able to do this. We used to say, let's come to all stop and do something like this. Well, really, ships never come to all stop. Even when you come to all stop on that engine, that ship's still moving. When we tie up to the pier, we have to put lines over because the ship's still moving. Even when we anchor, we have to set a watch because the ship is still moving. We never come to all stop unless you're in the dry dock, and I hope you're at all stop there, Dave, in the dry dock. But we slow down, and we take the time to do things like this. I'm telling you, it's good to see all of you folks, especially enlisted folks and the chiefs and the young sailors here today, because this is important. Doing things like this is important. And as we get busy and talk about all the challenges we have, we sometimes forget about those things that are important, like this. Okay? And that's why, at this time, I want to give a major shout out to the Surface Navy Association Hampton Roads chapter. Listen. Before I got this job, I knew a little bit about the Surface Navy Association, all you young sailors out there. I knew a little bit about it. I kind of thought it was all officers. It was the surface warfare officer community. I was wrong, obviously. I also didn't know all of the things that the Surface Navy Association supports. As I've been in this job, I've had an opportunity to be the beneficiary of a lot of those things. And I got to tell you, they really do what's right for our sailors and our Surface Navy and sailors all around. So if you're thinking about an organization, the Surface Navy Association is one that you ought to be thinking about. It's a great organization. Things I didn't know. And it's just good that we can come here today and do this. But really, I want you to take this back to your ships as you go back. Take it back everywhere. We do one of these luncheons every month. This goes on. If you can make it, you ought to be here. Some great stuff comes out. So for the Surface Navy Association, what a great deal this is. Let's give them another round of applause. I'm not going to be up here long, I promise you. You see, because I'd rather you have the time to ask questions. I would like for you to ask questions when I'm done speaking. I want you to do that, so think about what questions you're going to ask. I also know this is not my first rodeo, so I know that you just had a good meal and that some of you are probably sleeping right now. And so I'm not going to be up here long. As I begin to think about last week what I was going to talk about, I thought about talking about those things that are important to us. If you've been sitting around in any briefs or talking to anybody, you always get the lecture. We've been getting a lecture here recently about the budget, about funding, about all those things, that the cutbacks. Our grass is so high at Surfland, I thought we were raising goats. Because of the cutbacks. These are the cutbacks that we have. So I thought about all of that, had this nice brief and nice speech prepared with some PowerPoint and all those things you guys long for. I thought about it and said, you know what, instead of talking about those things, let me talk about something that's more controllable to me. The budget and funding and all those things are important things, and they're affecting everything we do. Make no mistake about it. But as a Master Chief in the United States Navy, and proud to be one, I don't control the budget or the funding. I just kind of do control the things that I own. You have uncontrollable forces and you have those controllable forces, shipmates. Just like driving a ship, you have those things you can control, like your rudder and your engine, and you have those things you can't control, like the wind and the seas. We don't stand on the bow of that ship during a storm and say, peace, be still, and everything goes calm. The last person that did that was a long time ago, and he wasn't in the Navy. And so instead of talking about those things that we can't control, let's just take a minute, you and I, to talk about some of the things we can control. From a perspective of a young sailor, I used to be one, with an afro and everything. From the perspective of a CPO, because I am one. And maybe even talk about as a junior officer and officers, because I know a few. I want to talk about some of those things we can control. We can control how good of a sailor we are. How good we are at being a sailor. What's our profession? What's our rate? Are we good at our rate, or are we just going through the motions? We can control that. The way we look, the way we react to things. We can control that, no doubt. We can control how good we are being a sailor. Being a sailor is a privilege. It ain't easy. If it was easy, everyone couldn't do it. It is a privilege, and you ought to be proud to be a sailor, to be a surface sailor. It means something. We can control how good we are. I was talking to a Master Chief the other day, a mentor and a friend of mine, and he says, you know what, in 30 years, the Navy really hasn't changed that much. Even with the technology and all the things we've done, the Navy hasn't changed. And that's a little different from what some of you might have been hearing. And he said this to me. He said, when we get underway today, just as we did 30 years ago, with all of the technology and enhancements we have, all of the gadgetry and all the buttons that we can push now, it still requires a human being to place hands on a line to get us underway, as it did 30 years ago, as it did 200 years ago. We still have to be good at handling that line. When I was a boatswain mate, handling that line meant something. Because if you didn't do it right, somebody got hurt or killed, or you damaged some equipment. You can control that, shipmates. Let's control our skill and how good we are at being a sailor. When I stood the helm, and I was taking orders from the conning officer on which way to turn that big vessel, and when I didn't understand something, my response was orders to the helm. It is the same response today. Orders to the helm. We are sailors. We are professionals. That's what we do. We can control how good we are on that deck plate when it comes to that. The Admiral and I were on the pier not too long ago, and we walked by a sailor, and the ship was tight to the pier, and so she could paint without leaving the pier. I love those types of moorings, right? And she was painting that ship with this long pole and rolling. And we came up behind her, kind of on the side of her, and we said, hey, Admiral says, what are you doing? A great question, right? She didn't even turn around. She was just still painting, and she said, I'm making my ship look good. What does it look like? Right? And I just kind of stood there. She didn't know who she was talking to, and then she saw the two stars, and she immediately, you know, did whatever she was supposed to do. But the key there is not the fact that she said that. She said, I'm making my ship look good. We can control what we own. We can take ownership for those things, regardless of what's going on above us. We need to control what we own. No matter what job you may have today in the Navy, you are a professional sailor, and that means something. We can control that. When I was FSA mess cranking, how many people still call it mess cranking? Yeah, right? We used to crank. It's FSA, right? I did that in the scullery. How many folks done that in the scullery? Wash dishes. Yeah, everybody, right? So I'm washing dishes in the scullery. I'm the scullery captain. That means something, captain. Not captain like captain, but scullery captain. That meant something to me. I was an E1 and I was a scullery captain, and I'm there and I'm the best dishwasher you ever seen. My mother always told me you can be a ditch digger, but be the best ditch digger they've ever seen. So I'm the scullery captain. So we had NAE awards. Everybody know what NAE awards are, right? You get recommended for this big award. It's a great deal. But they come on board and they inspect everything, right? And so we had gotten the word that the inspector was coming on, who was a senior chief, who I thought was a 5-star admiral, based on what we were preparing for. That's just how it was. We were cleaning all night long. And we didn't eat lunch that day because we needed to clean during lunch. And you guys know what I'm talking about, so we're cleaning. This inspector comes in about 1400, and he's coming through with a white glove, senior chief, MS. And he's going through everything and checking everything, and I'm standing there as the scullery captain. I controlled that. As an E1, I owned that. And that was a sense of pride for me. And I'm standing there and he's not finding anything. And he goes through that whole place. It's a big scullery, big ship. And he looks in the scullery machine. You know, you have to take that machine apart to clean it, right? And so we had taken it apart, and it was clean, it was shiny. And he goes through there, and I'm proud, and all the guys are standing there. I'm the scullery captain. I was controlling what I own as an E1. It is possible. He gets to the scullery machine, he looks in there, and he runs his finger through there, and I'm standing about 5 feet away from him, and he calls me over, and he looks up, and I can see their expressions change. And he looks down, and he says, that ain't good, right? So I go over, and he says, he looks down, and I look down in there, and there's a hot dog in the machine. And he says, senior chief, he says, what's that? And I look down and I look right at him. We're both about the same height. I look around his eyes and I said, that's a hot dog. And he says, I know it's a hot dog. What is it doing there? And I'm the scullery captain. I'm proud to do what I'm doing. E1, been on the ship less than a year. Own a ship. And I look at him and I'm the man in charge. And you know what I say? We didn't eat lunch and I was going to get that afterwards. That is a true story. My point being is that we owned it just as you own the spaces you're on today as a young sailor. Later, after the NA Awards, we won the NA Awards despite of the hot dog. We won it. But later, after the NA Awards, we had an issue in the wardroom scullery, and I was called to go and fix it as an E1. And so as you young sailors are out there today and you're thinking about questions that go through your brain during the day on that ship or wherever you may be, one of the questions is, what time am I getting off? Isn't that one of the questions? Yeah, that's right. And another question may be, where's my cell phone? As you're thinking about all that, here's a question I ask you to think about. If there's a task or something hard to do on that ship and your supervisors have to choose someone to go do it, would they choose you? I would ask you to think about that as one of the questions, because if they would, then you're doing an outstanding job. Obviously, we got a lot of people here doing an outstanding job because a lot of folks stood up when I said Sailor of the Year, Junior Sailor of the Year, and so forth and so on. So I know you're doing it already. And when you do that and you end up in the chief's mess, here's what I want you to know. That the things that you own has just grown. They have. Chiefs know that everything belongs to us. If the ship is not doing well in 3M, it's the chief's mess fault, period, dot. If the ship is not doing well in any type of maintenance or anything going on, it's the chief's mess fault, and we need to understand that. And sometimes we're focusing on other things. Chiefs, I know you're doing it because I see you every day. It's okay to have a couple of collateral duties. Hell, I had some. We need them. But be the expert in your job, in your rate. Be that expert. If you don't know something, learn it. That's okay. Be that expert, chiefs. That's what we need to do. We can focus on all these things that we want to. We have to know it. But be the expert in your job. That's what we need. Own it. Control it. Control what you own. I just say that because we so focused on so many other things. I was going to give a brief today on some stuff that you guys definitely would have been asleep on. Man, we have to control what we own. Even I'm guilty. I'm the first one to tell you that. Let's control what we own. Be the best at what we do. And chiefs, as you're asking yourself, do I have enough collateral duties and my eval is going to look okay or whatever? Here's a question I want you to ask. For that division officer that you work for, that ensign, that JG, when they become an admiral, and they will, some of them will. When they become a captain of a ship, and they will, some of them will. When your divo is a captain, and someone goes up to him or her and say, tell me about your first chief. What are they going to say? What are they going to say? Ask yourself that question as you go out. Now, I told you I didn't have a lot to say, and I really don't. I'm closing out. For all of us here, really, for all of us, we are privileged to be sailors. Shipmates, we are privileged to be sailors. When you get busy on that ship, now as I'm talking here, I know it's rainbows and unicorns and everything is okay. You go back, in-service good. I'm not saying that. But don't forget where you come from. Don't forget what it means to be a sailor. It is so important. I was blessed enough to recognize this years ago, but man, as I close out now in the Navy, it is so important. Surface sailors, you mean so much. And you are privileged. You have to be privileged. You have to have that feeling to do what we do. Everybody doesn't get a chance to do it. We are blessed. And so as we hit this time when all these things are going on, we're in a unique time. Challenges everywhere. But as the boss says, it's our time. It is our time. It's our time to lead. It's our time to follow. It's our time to roger up. It's our time to do all those things, to control those things that we own. And don't focus so much on those things you have no control over. I know you all have been doing it, and I know I'm speaking to folks that know everything I'm saying, but it's always good sometimes to take a break and talk about it again. We are sailors. We are professionals, and we are sailors. It's a privilege to be a sailor. I want to thank you all for listening to me ramble up here for a little while. I wanted to get that out. Thank you for coming. God bless all of you and your families, and may God continue to bless the United States of America. I'm waiting for the questions right now. I know you got some. All right. Questions. Here's the hard part. Mike, it's the hard part.
Master Jim Wiiliams, STG1 Hodge,
Yep.
Sus McFall. I have two questions for you if you don't mind.
No.
First question is, at my level we see a lot of sailors, sonar techs for me especially, come to my ship, and I work hard to train them to be an excellent USW team. and my chiefs work hard to train them. And then right around the time that another ship has to deploy, another ship comes and grabs my sailors that I've worked so hard to train up to become excellent members of my USW team taken away. And I know that that's all a budget thing. I know that you can't control that. My question is, are we ever going to see an end to that? Yeah. Is the time coming where I can get a sailor and mentor him all the way up to a sonar supervisor before I leave my ship? Is that day coming?
Is that your first question?
That is my first.
You have another question?
I do have.
You want to ask that now?
Sure.
Let me answer that one, okay? Everyone knows what he's talking about, right? Cross-decking and all this stuff. I would tell you, on the big scheme of things at Surfland, we've seen that decrease a little. We aren't nowhere where we need to be. Yes, it's going to still happen. For the time being, it's going to still happen. And I know what you mean. Here's what I ask you to think about. When you train that young sailor up to be a good sonar tech, you're training them because you need them on that ship, but you're really training them for what? For any ship, really, right? You're training for the Navy. And I know that's hard. On your ship, you're probably saying, I don't know what that guy's talking about. But really, that's what you're doing. And that's the way I would ask you to kind of look at that as you guys are training folks up. We really don't want to move one person. We just don't. And you guys heard this before. But yes, to answer your question, it is still going to happen. It has really decreased in the last 3 years because of some things we've changed with the fit field requirement, 87, 85 and all that stuff. But it's still going to happen. And you have to do the best you can. And you still have to provide the input, and you still have to make sure we know what you're thinking about when we say, hey, we want to pull that ST. Okay, but yes, it's still going to happen. I'm sorry to tell you that. That's the only answer I have.
Thank you.
What's your second question?
My second question is, what technique or trick do you use to get your boots that shiny?
Yeah.
I can bring it back home to my sailor.
That's a good question. I actually have a sonar tech do mine. Next question. No, please, good question, buddy. Good question. Any more questions? Wow, just one. Yes, sir. I know you had one.
Since you're breaking USS Lagoon?
Yeah.
With the increase in ATFP requirements that we've been dealing with for the last couple of years, is there any possibility of looking towards a consolidated training facility, marksmanship range? We're running into more and more issues. We're trying to get range time, weapons, equipment, and everything. So, I don't know if anything to talk about that. Yeah,
we've been fighting this battle for a long time, trying to get more range time and all that stuff. As a matter of fact, we changed ATFP around a lot. Did you know that? I mean, over the years, or the last couple of years, as a matter of fact, we went back and looked at some of that instruction because we were having watches still that we probably didn't need. We have folks being qualified in things we probably didn't need. And so we have changed that because we listened to what you folks are saying. You know, it is a money thing with the ranges. And all that, but Admiral Thomas, the day he checked on board, that was one of his big deals, was trying to get another range. We have not been successful at that. I haven't heard anything, if anybody else has, of getting another range so we can do that.
Robert Warner, I'm in the Navy.
There you go.
We have put a project in to get another small arms range on the Norfolk Naval Base. For this region, it is the staff's #1 project.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's going to get funded, doesn't mean it's going to happen, but Admiral Thomas is personally going to a meeting later this month to plead his case to make that happen. We know how hard it is to get the flaws and where you have to go and what you have to do to make that happen. We know that, and we're trying to fix it. If I might.
Yes, sir, Mr. Warner.
I've been on the Surfland staff since 2003. I was a captain then. Some of the things I worked on then, when I first got on the staff, are just happening now. Some things don't happen fast, but we're here for the long term. Just as Forrest said with the Manning question, that is a focus, and the problems are so deep and ingrained in the Navy that it takes time to fix them. We may have to, my words, blow up CNP to start all over again to get a better process in place to get sailors to ships and keep them there for the long haul.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Warner. I'm sorry, I didn't see you sitting there, but I love you. I love you. That's awesome. What else?
Well, I got a question too.
Yes, sir.
Sexual assault issue in our Navy. We all know what the policy is. A lot of us have been through the training. What can we do to stop it? It's been in the news. The Air Force is getting beaten up bad for a couple of reasons. The Navy's in the same place, basically. From your vantage point as the Force Master Chief, what do you think that we can do as junior sailors midterm?
Yes, sir.
Senior folks?
Yes, sir. Great question. Hey, listen, as Mr. Warren said, we've gone through the training, and so and we're still doing it. And I think it's some very good training, really. I think you would agree with me that we are. But we have to go out there and do it. The bystander intervention piece, that's huge. We have to know, our young sailors, you all here, all of us have to know what right looks like. We have to know when those funny things, because in most cases, a lot of those issues start off very small. When we see them and we deal with them, they're at a big level, and now we have to do some things. But they normally start off very small and on the deck plate. And so as we get this training, please understand that there are some things to learn from this training, but it's really about keeping your eyes and ears open and being able to report that and not hesitate reporting that. And the reporting it can't, you don't have to go straight to the sheriff. But reporting it is making sure someone knows that something maybe small is going on. One of the things we can do, that's one of the things we can do, is make sure as we're on that deck plate, because you all are, more than me, you all are. When you hear those things and see those things happening that you may not think is a big deal, it's a big deal. We do have a problem. And so we have to cut it off when it's low. We have to really pay attention. All of us become an advocate. All of us become that SAPR representative. All of us are that when we're on those ships. We have to understand that. Is that good enough, Mr. Warren? What else? That's not. Yes, sir, Captain.
We've got a couple of different perspectives on things, but quite frankly, we spent the same nearly 30 years.
Yes, sir.
And when we look back at what life was like in 1984 in the Surface Navy and what life is today, quite frankly, I'm much happier with today.
Yes, sir.
And but can you, again, it's tell me what you think are the greatest things that have changed and for the better since your days as galley captain.
Yeah. Scully captain.
Scully captain.
Yes, sir.
The CS was like, wait a minute.
Hey, one thing I would tell you, it's easy. That's an easy question. One thing right off the bat that pops in my mind is the quality of life. It's the quality of life, the living quarters, the PPV. How many folks know I'm talking about when I say PPV? I know everybody knows. Isn't that awesome? Isn't that awesome? I used to have a ditty bag, one of those laundry bags with my clothes in it. On the weekends, some sailor would say, hey, I actually live on town because I'm married, so you can come and stay with me for the weekend. That's how we did it, because we all lived on the ship, right? And we were glad to get that. And I would think I was special, because this sailor has asked me to come over with his spouse, and we were going to have a weekend or something. I get there, and there's like 8 other people there. And so we're all sleeping on the floor. But my point is that's how we lived as young sailors. That's how we lived. And it was okay, and we were fine with that, and we did well. But man, it's so much better. Not only that, the mindset behind it, the NWR things that we have, the quality of life issue has gotten a whole lot better, and it's still getting better. And that's something that we all need to kind of pay attention. For me, for young sailors now that are just coming in, this is all they know, so they don't know the other piece. But for us who've been around, old guys, we know that it was a little bit different back then. The other thing is the training. The way that we train, and the way, and the sailors that are coming in today, you all that are coming into the Navy today, it is just entirely different. It is just entirely different. The things that you catch on to so fast that it took me forever to catch on to. That is why we're able to move at the pace we're moving. We got to be careful. We got to be careful that we're not leaving someone behind, or we're doing the right things, right? But it is amazing to me that really has gotten better. I was on my first ship. And I don't mean to be negative with this. And we went to shoot a Sea Sparrow. I was on a Spruance. And we hit the button, twisted pickle, whatever you want to call it. Nothing happened. It didn't leave the rail. It didn't come out. And so we were concerned about that, but not so much. Not so much. I remember a time in the Navy when we had gear actually in our ships that didn't work. In CIC. Things that kind of were tables now, because they weren't intended to be tables, but they are now, and because they just didn't work. We were in a time back then, it was a long time ago. You'd be hard pressed to find that today. You may have some things down, equipment down, but man, the reaction time, the professionalism of sailors in those spaces nowadays, entirely different. We have come a long way. We are a much better Navy. We are a leaner Navy. The way we look even is different. So that's just some things, Captain. Would you agree with those things?
What, I'm glad for today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Is that it? You waited to the last one. You last minute to ask that question.
You said earlier that the Navy has changed since you've been in. One of the, not new programs, but some programs that Mike has participated in, the CBO 365.
Yes.
What kind of changes have you seen? Because the last, I think the last cycle, those sailors went through 365 and they became chief. Do you think there was a big difference in between that group and the group before this?
What do you? Do I think it's a big difference of folks who made chief?
With the training that's going on.
Yeah, I think the training is getting better. As a matter of fact, I know the training over the years is getting better. When I was a young first class, there was no training like that. I mean, I was getting training, but it wasn't geared toward that. And when I found out that I made chief, it was a little different training that was happening to me. So the training has gotten extremely better. It is the direction we need to go. I'm glad we're here, and it's going to get better from here. If you think about what we're doing with 365, it's really what we should be doing anyway. And so it's really not that much different. I hope that answers your question. If not, that's all I got. So that didn't answer. That's it. Oh, we got one more question here. I'm sorry. That was it.
A01 Johnson.
A01.
ATG.
Gun.
Eat that hot dog?
I didn't actually. I don't remember. I was 30 years old. I can't remember what I ate just now.
All right. Good. Well, Master Chief, I tell you what, I have never been more proud to be a United States sailor.
Yes, sir.
Than right this moment.
Yes, sir.
So thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
For
Thank you.
for motivating us, reminding us what it is.
Yes, sir.
That we can do.
Yes, sir.
So on behalf of SNA, we'd again, there's what do we wear? We wear ball cap because we're fleet sailors, right?
Yeah.
So on that and again, thank you for being with us. And if